Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Post Sports Live. I'm your host, Jonathan Forsythe. And joining us back to the Post TV studio, it's been a while, Jason Reid. How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well, Jonathan.
Back from covering the Wizards on the deep playoff run or semi-deep playoff run?
For this town, it was extremely deep.
That was deep, wasn't it? Yeah. Dan Steinberg of the DC Sports Blog and LaVar Arrington, fresh off of Preakness.
Thank you, fans.
Did you enjoy,
Thank you.
Did you enjoy the Preakness on Saturday?
Thank you, fans. Yes, I enjoyed the Preakness, and I enjoyed you, the fans. Thank you.
All right. Well, before we get into today's rundown, I wanted to just take a quick moment. We usually do this at the end of the show, but I want to take a quick moment to thank our longtime producer, Mitch Rubin, who, 17-year veteran of the sports department, is moving on to the features department here within the newsroom, and as such will no longer be a weekly part of our show here at Post Sports Live. We owe a huge debt of gratitude. I personally do. I think we all do to some degree to Mitch for helping keep this show moving every week and really building.
Thank you, Mitch.
And really growing the show into what it is today.
Hey, Mitch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Hope you feel better soon.
Mazel tov, Mitch.
There you go. Best of luck to you. Let's just face it. All he did was hurt cats, getting you guys in the damn studio every week.
Congratulations, yeah.
Say congratulations.
Thank you. It comes so naturally for Dan.
No one wants to watch this. Like, if I ever leave, you better not spend 1 second talking about me. No one cares.
We're gonna have a compilation of you just saying about how nobody ever cares about this stuff. All right,
I love it.
Lots to talk about today. We'll get into the Wizards. We'll talk about the free agency questions facing the team in the offseason, expectations for next year. We talked about last week. We're going to talk about which priorities they need. Obviously, Gortat and Ariza at the top of that list. We're going to talk about the Nationals and whether or not they can continue to play over 500 given the rash of injuries. And what about Ross Detwiler? What should the team do with him? We'll talk about the Redskins coming off the rookie minicamp. How many rookies do you guys think will be on the 53-man roster? They drafted 8. They brought in some undrafted free agents as well. Get your thoughts there. And also, RG3 is back at it in the social media sphere, releasing a video that is very thankful to the fans, and I'm wondering your guys' thoughts on the motivation there. And finally, we'll wrap up with the NBA playoffs. The top 2 seeds in the Eastern and Western Conference should bode well for a deep series, potentially. Get your guys' thoughts on what you would like to see as the matchup in the NBA Finals, and why. All right, final thing. First thing I should say, Wizards. Jason, give me your priority for the team if you had to name one player to bring back for this team going into the offseason. Who is it for the Wizards?
Gortat and Trevor Ariza.
Right, you named 2.
They're linked. I mean, they have to bring them both back. I mean, bringing back one without the other doesn't work with where they're trying to get to. So they intend to sign both of them, and they need to sign both of them.
They intend to sign. Can they sign both?
Yes, they can.
You think that they can?
Yes, they can.
Do you expect that, Dan?
I mean, I think they can too. I think that at some point, some of it becomes about positioning for the next round of free agents and whether, how many years these guys are asking for and how much money would be tied up in them. I think I'm going to actually answer your question unlike Jason. If you have to bring one of them back, I think it's got to be Gortat because, the same thing that people have been talking about for months. They have so many guys who play the same position that Ariza does. Obviously, Ariza plays that position better than Martell Webster. He plays it a whole lot better than Otto Porter did, at least in his first year.
From what we've seen, yeah.
But, at some point, I think there's a question. Are you spending tens of millions of dollars on 3 guys who play a really, really similar role for this team, even if Ariza plays that role better? But, I guess, it also depends if the Wizards are gearing everything to make one giant run in 2015, 2016, or if they're trying to think 5, 6, 7 years down the road and the next free agent they're going to get. There's a lot of kind of long-term choices they have to make when they look at these guys.
That's a good point, especially on the
love hammer.
The
love hammer.
The love hammer. I haven't heard that one.
You got to bring Gortat back.
Okay, right.
And I do believe you need to bring Ariza back. So make a trade. Make a trade with, I hate to do it, let's get rid of Otto Porter and Nene and bring in Kevin Love. Even if you have to put Martellus Webster into the trade, keep Ariza, keep Gortat, bring inOve. That
what's the number for the Sports Talk hotline?
Hammer.
Can we go to Cal and Suitland about this or so?
Cal.
Or something?
That's a name from the past. You don't see that being. I mean, they're trying to get rid of Kevin Love and get some value for it. Why not get a draft pick?
Jason, let me ask you this. You're big on bringing both back, obviously. And Dan's point is a good one. I mean, what is the window for this team if you bring those guys back? I mean, obviously, Gortat and Ariza are not old, but they're not young either. What is the window of opportunity for this team if you're signing them for 3-4 year deals?
People are looking at this the completely wrong way. You don't look at what the window is with this group. You look at what the window is with John Wall and Bradley Beal, because those are the pillars. Those are the things you're going to build on. And John is 23 and Bradley is 20. In 2 summers, Kevin Durant will be up. The Wizards at that point will make an all-out push to try to bring him home. Now he may say no. Okay, at the end of the day, but in 2 summers, if you're the Wizards, you think Bradley Beal at that point is going to be averaging about 22, 23 points a game and will be on the All-Star team.
He's going to be the star of this team.
You think John Wall will be a multiple-time All-Star then. And the pitch you make to Kevin Durant is, look, we can put 2 guys around you now who can do the things that you weren't able to do in Oklahoma City, win a championship. Now, assuming Oklahoma City doesn't win a championship. So people don't need to look at this as, well, if you have to bring back Ariza and Gortat to continue the momentum. They just get you to the next phase. The next phase is you make the pitch.
I think there is a momentum question, but I also think, and it's kind of an uncomfortable question a little bit. I know you love Ariza, but you do have to wonder, is he going to play at this same level when he's not in a contract year? Would there be a drop-off? Because I think he's a player that historically has not always played.
Yep. He had career highs in field goal percentage, 3-pointers,
but there's a reason. It wasn't just he was in contract year. John Wall and Trevor Ariza have a very good relationship.
They play well together.
And John Wall always looks for Trevor Ariza. Okay, they need to bring this guy back.
So with those 2 guys back, assuming they're multi-year deals, which they'll command, you don't see that as being a potential roadblock for a Kevin Durant.
What you're going to have to do with Ariza is you're going to have to get him to agree like a 2-year deal plus an option.
Okay.
Because you can't go 5 years with him. Because you do want to make a run at Durant. But remember, this team lost 11 games this year in which it had a double-digit lead. You win half of those games, you're a 50-victory team, essentially. So I think you bring those guys back, and with Bradley's continued development, and John hopefully continues to improve and make that jump more consistently in the playoffs. You got a team now, and Otto Porter. And another thing too, the Martell Webster thing. Likelihood is you're not trading Martell Webster. Now Ernie was able to unload Gilbert, and that was an incredible feat. I don't know if he'll be able to unload Martell Webster, with the money he's making, $5 million plus a year.
Y'all are taking me seriously here, and I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it.
About the Kevin Love thing.
Yes. That's a trade that could possibly happen because the Timberwolves are trying to get rid, isn't it Minnesota? They're trying to get rid of this Kevin Love guy instead of just letting him go. They're trying to get something for him. They're suitors. If I had to choose between the New York Knicks and the Washington Wizards, and I'm Kevin Love, where you want to go?
But the problem with Love is
Washington.
Go ahead. The problem with Love is that his people are putting it out that he is going to test free agency. So if you're a team like the Wizards, you can't trade like hypothetically Nene and Otto Porter.
He's never going to win in Minnesota.
There's
not enough players there.
You're talking about the Wizards now.
I'm talking about
but he's a player in play that it would be an enticing.
But you can't trade a guy like that unless he's going to agree to sign an extension.
Right.
And if he's not going to do that, well.
Quick question: who's to say that won't happen?
What do you mean?
Who's to say that Love won't do what it takes to get to the type of team that he want to get to, especially if it's an enticing offer?
That's true.
I've seen crazier things happen.
We'll see how it
the
plays
Love
out.
hammer.
Jason, last question out of that because I want your thoughts on what we talked about last week. Expectations for the Wizards for next year. Obviously, some depends on these free agents.
Well, they were signed Gortat.
Expect them to go through the playoffs, win a round, and at least.
Yeah, anything else is a step backward.
Okay. Guys, I want to ask you a question, and I'm not suggesting that the Wizards might be the closest to winning a championship in town. Obviously, the last professional franchise to win a title here locally is 1992 with the Redskins. I want you to put the 4 professional franchises in order of the likelihood of the next one winning this town's
Can I go first?
championship. Please, LaVar, you go.
Pretty quick. I'll go Nationals, Wizards, Redskins, Capitals.
Nats, Wizards, Redskins, Caps.
Correct.
Dan, does yours differ?
Yes, mine's going to be controversial a little bit. I think the Nationals are first. I think that's kind of self-evident. Second, I'm going to say Redskins because weird teams win the Super Bowl. The NFL is just a weird league with a parity that the other leagues don't have at all. I'm going to say third is the Capitals because look at who's in the NHL. Look who's the semifinalists right now. None of the top 4, none of the top 2 teams in either. And I've got the Wizards last, and it's nothing about the talent on this team or whatever, but look at who wins championships in the NBA. It's the same 7 teams or whatever it is over and over and over again.
Right.
And for as great as the Wizards played, and I was caught up in it like anyone, I don't know that they were particularly close to winning a title this year, and I don't know how they're going to get closer after this.
Kind of for what it's worth, the same NFL teams win the Super Bowl pretty much all the time.
No, they
as well,
don't.
though.
Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl last year.
That's like that's an anomaly.
the last 15 years?
It's an anomaly.
How many
Yes.
teams have won in the last 15 years? It's got to be,
Let's
what,
think
like
about
10?
it. You got Green Bay, but it's the same teams.
Oh, New
Green Bay, the
Orleans,
Steelers,
Baltimore.
New
Yeah.
Orleans.
Jason,
and,
give me your
and
4.
What?
I guess the
New Orleans and
Nationals.
Seattle.
Nats first. Everybody
Baltimore
agrees
has
Nats are
2.
top.
Yeah, I mean, if I just had to pick one, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think they're necessarily close to winning the championship.
Okay, but they're closest in town.
I would say Caps, just because I guess anybody can win in hockey, I guess.
Redskins and the Wizards.
Wizards
Wizards third.
and Redskins last, just because, I mean, their management's a mess. The quarterback, you don't know if he can read defenses. I don't know.
That's three separate. That's interesting. You could have. I think you could.
I don't think there's as much parity in the NFL as Dan.
We'll have to get some stats for next week.
Yeah.
What's your list?
I'm actually going to be even more controversial. I'll put the Redskins up top just because of the nature of the NFL. I agree with Dan on that. Redskins
really?
on top. Remember, they won the division 2 years ago. They won the division 2 years ago.
And let me ask you a question, John. Do you know how many times they finished last?
The NFL,
hold on.
anything can happen.
Okay, but yes, you're right. But do you know how many times the Redskins in the last 6 years have finished last?
Correct. 5 out of the
Anything
6.
can
Right.
happen in the
Yes,
regular season.
I agree. But they're due. It's the year due third. Of
They're
course, every
due.
team is due for that matter. I think I would put the Caps at
I
the
think
bottom.
the Nats clearly have the most
I put the
talent
Caps
on
at the
floor.
bottom. I put Skins, Nats, Wizards.
Yeah,
The only reason why I put
There
the
you go.
Caps at the bottom is
All right.
because of the uncertainty of their coaching and their general manager.
Uncertainty, they don't have a coach.
Right, that's
exactly
But
right.
they may bring in the guys
That's why
from Pittsburgh.
that's why they're at the bottom right now.
Oh.
All right, guys, let's move on.
They could easily
Let's
be
move
at
on to
the
the
top,
Nationals.
depending on who they bring in.
Jason, they continue to play above 500, although they're just a couple games. But this is the exact same record they had, interestingly, at this point last year at 23-21. They're a game and a half back of Atlanta. They're treading water, but they're not out of it. They're right there. The question here is, I'm going to focus on Ross Detwiler, on Dan's suggestion earlier in the show. What does the team need to do with this guy, and how best can they, how do you solve the riddle of Ross Detwiler and how to use him?
I mean, I guess you don't want to trade him because you like the depth.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I mean, guys at the back end of the bullpen, I mean, he's not getting work. I don't know. I mean, you can carry him for the whole year just as an insurance policy for the team. That doesn't help the guy out, but teams don't care about that. I mean, they're thinking about their situation. Basically, if they're going to continue doing what they're doing, they're going to have to recognize and accept that the guy's not going to be very effective probably for the year, because he's not getting work. And I guess, but for their standpoint, I guess keeping him around as insurance policy is the best thing.
For the starting rotation in case there's injuries
I mean,
there?
I think they've had 7 guys start games now, right? And he
Rourke
hasn't been
and
one of the
Jordan,
7.
right.
So, and
Seems like there's depth.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that he has a future here, and it's weird because he was a pretty high first-round pick.
Yeah.
And he was a valued member of this rotation.
Well, I mean,
but
he started game the
4.
he
playoffs.
started in the NLCS. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
Game
right.
4, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Did he get the win? I don't know. He pitched
I don't know
well.
how he got the win,
No,
but that was
because
the
of the
first.
home
That was
run.
the
Right,
only
but-
quality start of the series. I
Right.
think.
Yes. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, weird, but obviously whatever they're doing right now with him isn't working. And then when they need a guy to come in the 15th inning, again, in a game that they would like to win, and he's giving up a 2-run homer, undoing 27 scoreless innings from the bullpen. Like, if you can't use him there,
then it's.
But do you put that on the way he's being used right now? His struggles a little bit is because he's not getting the reps.
Well, that's not. I mean, a guy's in that situation. I mean, he's a high first-round pick. He's a guy who pitched well in a playoff game. You're at the back end of the bullpen, getting called out in the 15th inning. I mean, guys need to have mental toughness to succeed as a professional athlete, but that's a pretty tough spot for a guy.
What you have to assume Rizzo is seeing what type of value he may have on
would
the
think
market.
so.
I mean, they could
Whatever
use
value is
some-
going down right now,
they
though,
could-
isn't it?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it could possibly just be the scenario that is playing out for him. I mean, it's a very competitive staff that he's a part of. He may go to a different environment and be a totally different player. You just never know. I would be weighing out the options of how much value the guy holds, and can I bring in some guys that could possibly help in some of the other positions that they're thin in, because they are enduring injuries at key different positions. So that's how I would be looking
I'll
at
say
it.
if this was like the Washington Capitals and Adam Oates was the coach, like he would have popped off in the media for sure. And him and other guys on this team have accepted roles on the pitching staff that they might not have preferred, I think, this year.
Is that a cultural thing, though, between baseball and hockey? I mean, it's a little bit, whatever. Let's not go down that road. On the plus side, though, Jason, let's move on from Detwiler. Strasburg. He's been pitching very well. Hasn't necessarily been noticed in the win column. He's 3-3. But he started off with those couple rough outings early in the season. He's brought his ERA all the way down to just over 3 now, 3.3 something. Best among the starters for the Nats. I mean, that's got to bode well for the Nationals, and that's helping them keep, above 500 during this stretch of. Go ahead. No. But I mean, he's bounced back. Anything surprising from you of the way he's been pitching?
Well, I mean, he's a good pitcher. I mean, he's a talented guy. Well, no. I mean, I'm not trying to be a.
No, that's all right.
I mean, look, just because the guy throws hard and he's got command and all that doesn't mean he's always going to be successful.
Right.
And people got so caught up. This town was so starved for success for so long. I mean, he's a young guy who's got a lot of ability, but he's not going to. It's not going to be like this. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, but he's pitching well now. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, much more concern right now is what's going on with Gio Gonzalez's shoulder, I think. Right. And, first serious starting pitcher injury of the season after Pfister had his whole spring training thing. That 15 days, they say it's just inflammation, but you never want shoulder. No. You never want shoulder.
Last question, true, false, real quick, guys. Back to Detwiler. Will he start a game this season? LaVar?
I say yes.
True?
I say no.
False?
Well, I say no.
False. 2 falses and a true.
All right. Be correct.
We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't get to that because that would mean they're relatively healthy. All right, let's move on to the Redskins, guys. Mr. Arrington, I want to start with you on this. And,
can he talk about them?
What's that?
I just won't say their names.
The Redskins' great LaVar Arrington, I should introduce as. Give me your thought on how many of the 8 drafted rookies from the Redskins will make the 53-man roster come August.
Out of the 8 drafted, you'd have to say more than half.
Okay. You think 4 or 5?
I'd probably be willing to lean towards 5 or so to make the active man roster. This special teams is in desperate need of an overhaul. There are some positions along the offensive line. There are some positions within the defensive secondary that there's a possibility that they will be backups to the guys that would be the starters in those positions.
Yeah, we're not saying they're starting. But.
Yeah, I think about 5 to 6. And again, keep in mind it's a 3-win team.
Right.
So and with a new head coach, they're going to try to fill those positions with young good talent so that they can kind of build it the way that they want to build it.
Dan, give me a number.
I think I'm going to be lower than both of these guys. I mean, I guess I would say 4 to 5. I think I'm definitely going to be lower than Jason on this one. But it just seems to me like these guys, the 8 number, a lot of these guys are back of the draft guys as skill position players where you might not trust, with a new coach, a lot of new stuff going on. I don't know that you're going to want to fill your backup spots with, late round draft picks from
Ross Tucker, Antonio Pierce, Lamar Marshall. I mean, there are guys that you find that are undrafted free agents.
Absolutely, but we're talking about like 3 skill position players basically taken at the end of the draft. And the kicker, I don't see how you. I mean, whatever. We're speculating about a kicker battle in May.
About starters.
But we're not talking about starters.
But I don't see how this could be. They're talking about a kicker battle. I don't see how.
Jason, they've both got 4 to 5. What do you got?
I think you said 5 to 6.
I think
5 to 6. I said 5 to 6.
I think most of them will make it because here's the thing.
But
the Redskins
53-man.
53 man.
Not just practice squad, 53 man.
Oh, just 53 man?
Mm-hmm. So active roster.
I would say I would go with LaVar because the Redskins always like to pat themselves on the back for like picking all these great picks and like a lot of these guys have no business being on the field. But they pat themselves on the back and
Not
they talk
these
about
particular guys. You mean in the past?
In the past,
yeah,
in the past. Right. Yeah, but the Redskins are big on that about how that they place the value on this guy and yada yada yada, and you find out these guys can't play. So I'll go with 5 or somewhere around there because they'll want to pat themselves on the back and say what a great job.
All right, quick.
I think coming out of this rookie mini camp, which again we're going to talk about more than any other camp in the country would be talked about. But I think the guy from Tulane, the receiver Ryan Grant,
right.
Gruden was extremely, extremely complimentary of a late-round wide receiver that I had never heard of before.
My thing about that. Can I say this real quickly?
Please.
You hear this all the time about how this guy is great. let's get the pads on them. Let's get them in games. Let's get them guys lining up. Guys bumping them at the line of scrimmage. Guys jamming. I mean,
he said he looked like a 12-year vet or something, didn't he?
No, but I mean,
you got to sell the show.
Yeah,
you got to sell the show.
But that's all they do is sell.
Very quickly.
And by the way, get off my lawn.
They won 3 games last year, and their coach was in his 4th season coaching. You have a new head coach. They won 3 games. These rookies are going to get an opportunity to make this roster.
Follow-up question to LaVar and Jason, who think over 4 of these guys will be on the 53-man. I want to ask you of the last 4 of the 8 draft picks, Grant, Seastrunk, Bolser, or Hawker, the kicker, which one of those 4 is most likely to be that 5th or 6th guy, do you guys think? Assuming you guys are thinking the top 4 picks.
I heard some really good things about the Seastrunk.
Seastrunk, the running back?
Yeah.
Okay,
I heard some really good.
Yeah.
Even if it's just special teams, return man, specialist, whatever.
Right. Something.
It sounds as though if he can grasp the offensive scheme, he will hit the field.
I think we should try to name the 53 men that will be on the roster in 2017, if we could.
Let's put it all up there.
2017 roster.
Start with London Fletcher.
All right. All right, moving on. Dan, I'll start with you because you posted on the blog this morning. The latest social media post from RG3 was a video, a thank you video to the fans. Just curious about what the motivation is now in your mind.
I think he's a young kid who is genuinely excited about his life and being here and all of that. But I also think, and whatever, I don't want to be psychoanalyzing a guy based on his Facebook post. I think he likes for people to talk about him. He likes to be part of the conversation. And I think that sometimes it's better not to be. I think that media people like to be part of the conversation too, and I love it when I see people talking about me on Twitter or people writing about me.
Right.
But it's a little bit different in my job. I think in his job, sometimes it'd be kind of cool if in the middle of May, he wasn't trying to get people to tweet about his Facebook video. That's just
get reporters that he text messaged to tweet about what it is that he did.
Oh, that's kind of speculative.
Okay, speculative.
Well, but that's part of the story, right? Is how the message gets out.
Speculative or not, we hear that he text messages reporters to put out there what he's doing. I mean, speculative, okay, that's fine. That's what we hear.
I think
it's pretty interesting.
I think he likes to be part of the conversation, and I think that sometimes it'd be better not to be. That's what I think.
Is somebody behind him sort of encouraging that, or is this just his age, it's the social media era, this is sort of him personally making these
better
calls?
than I do.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, all I know is that I wish he would just stop. I actually like him. I think that a lot of stuff that has happened, he's made mistakes, and he got caught up in something that he wasn't prepared for. But and I said this on LaVar's radio show. Maybe one day on his TV show I'll say it as well. But the whole thing is that I just wish for his own sake he would just stop doing all this stuff, and I know he works hard, but I don't want to see anything else about him until the season opener against Houston. He's going 20 for 32 with 250 yards and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, and he's cutting up a defense, and he's reading the safeties, and he's looking people off, and the corners don't know what he's doing. I just want to see him read a defense, do it well, and win. I just wish he would stop everything else.
And people, whatever, I know this. It's like the kind of topic where people say you guys are being too hard on him, you're picking on him, you're overanalyzing him. And maybe it's true to some degree because he's the quarterback of the Redskins. But I just think when you do look around at all these other great young stars we have in town, it's a little bit different. John Wall, great player, goes to the All-Star game, has Adidas deals, all this, but it's a little bit different, the level of sort of.
Here's the thing, I know we're long. You're the quarterback of the Redskins, son, in D.C.
Yeah.
Okay? This is the life you chose. Okay? I'm sorry. You're in a fishbowl. Everything, the spotlight. You're the quarterback of the Washington Redskins in D.C. Outside of this town, a lot of people don't care. But in this town, in that job, I'm sorry. That's the life you chose.
Which makes it interesting that he's looking for help to get his message out, because it is a fishbowl, like you said, every time.
I'm glad I didn't have to say anything.
There you
about
go. LaVar was mostly quiet about it. All right, let's move on to the NBA, guys.
I certainly don't think it's a big deal, though. Certainly don't think it's a big deal. I'm not trying
Not
to
a
make
big deal. No, not suggesting it's a big deal.
Year.
Not suggesting it's a big deal.
It's just everything. It's just everything.
It's all part of it. It's just one more
He
thing.
better
All right.
win.
Let's move on, guys.
Yeah.
Mr. Reid, give me your thoughts on the NBA Conference Finals, and who would you most like to see in the finals, and why?
Well, I'd love to see San Antonio and Miami a rematch of the last season final. I think that would be phenomenal. However, I don't think if the Heat lose Game 2, I mean, it's going to be tough. You know,
Right.
they're older now. They're not the same team they were last year and the year before and the year before. So I really think that, you know, San Antonio and Miami would be an outstanding matchup, but we could see San Antonio, Indiana.
I root against Miami every game, every series they play.
Hater.
So I am, yeah.
Hater.
So I was rooting for the Brooklyn Nets, which is not a popular team to root for. I was rooting for the Charlotte Bobcats. Now I'm rooting for the Indiana Pacers. And in the next round, I will probably be rooting for the Spurs. So that's, I mean, my primary interest is Miami.
Hater.
Anybody but Miami, all right.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, to me, Kevin Durant is the most likable superstar in the NBA.
Yep.
And I would always root for him as well. So my ideal finals is the Thunder and the Pacers, which is the exact opposite of yours, I guess. Thunder
and Pacers. All right, LaVar, what's your matchup you want to see?
I think without Serge Ibaka, it makes it less. I'll put it to you like this: I would love for it to be the Thunder. I think that it makes it less impactful if they lose because everyone would say they lost their big man. But if you really want to know the mark of a true legend in the making, let's see if they can do it without their big man. I think Kevin Durant versus whoever from the East would be must watch television because of how hot Kevin Durant's name is, how much goodwill. I mean, we just transitioned off of talking about Robert Griffin III. These athletes out here is spectacular and as phenomenal as a guy as I believe Robert Griffin III to be. Some of these guys out here, as phenomenal as I perceive them to be, they could all take a lesson from Kevin Durant and how he conducts himself and his business and how he handles the media and all those things. And for him genuinely doing it the right way and actually not being how a LeBron James is and which is in all these different commercials from the jump and all this attention and how he's perceived, Kevin Durant has always seemed to do it from an unassuming, under the radar type of way, and then boom, he's right in front of your face as the best in the game, or at least in the discussion with LeBron James. I want to see him in the finals. I want to see him hoist the trophy because I don't think there's anybody else in the National Basketball Association that would deserve that honor more than Kevin Durant.
How could you guys not say Durant versus LeBron? Come on. That's the most obvious one. Not surprisingly, nobody said Indiana versus San Antonio, which I'm sure the NBA is not rooting for either. But it's Durant. It's Durant versus LeBron, although I'm with you. I root against LeBron all the time. All right. For that, hater. I'm also a hater. For that, I want to thank Jason Reid, Dan Steinberg, LaVar Arrington. Mitch, I already miss you in my ear, buddy.
Yeah.
Bye, Mitch, I already miss you in my ear, but no, that's no offense to you,
Don't worry, I'll
James.
say it twice for Dan as well.
Thank you guys for joining us on Post Sports Live. We'll meet you right here next week, same time, same place. See ya.
I mean, like, we're not doing the show for an audience of one person.